Jello again, this is Ben Hitchcock Cross talking to you today with Debbie Keither. Um, how often do you get to say that? We're just ham fisting it right into another round of public records with doing the best we can with Zoom and all the rest, so forth. So, why are we looking at this strange email? I'll let you know. So the setup, and we've got basically of course, they gave us a bunch of public records on the day before Thanksgiving, because that's what you do when you're trying to be open and transparent. So I got a couple of open records from them, and we're going to go through some of these. I think we may have gotten some of these from other dumps. But right here, what we have basically is there was a very tense public pre-hearing conference in which the ALJ said that nobody was going to record her. I told her that I didn't believe that she had the right to prevent anybody from recording, and I didn't believe that because it's a public hearing. And she said it wasn't a public hearing. She could close it. It was up to her. And that we'll see about that. So it's my understanding it's that based on that conversation is when she decided to use the police force, police powers there to prevent me from recording. I think there's no doubt in my mind based on this email here, um, what happened. Now, it's also kind of clear that there was a correspondence between Benitez Morgan and Celsor, because Celsor now is giving directions to Tina here at the front office on who's allowed to be at this hearing. So, the question oftentimes with this is really going to be, is this about the merits of the case? Okay. Now, is this the security? Is it just something tangential? Is this about the merits? Who gets to be in the hearing? Why is somebody else making that decision? And if that doesn't affect the case itself, you tell me. Am I off base here, Debbie?
No, you're right on par. And then let me see. I can see the subject matter here, which is the in-person hearing, which was day one was on September 30th. Okay, so I'm just what I wanted to see here, because this goes along with what my mind builds is, remember the event, you backtrack and look what happened before the event,
Right,
what
right.
contributed to the conditions of the event, and then during the event and after the event. So I think what's significant for this part for me is to understand that 4 days before the hearing ever occurred, there was a robust discussion with a lot of uncommon themes, which was who are we allowing into the space, who are we banning from the space, and what special conditions are we creating for this hearing to take place. And that's what I like to see in these kinds of things, because we're seeing the laying of the groundwork just merely by the timing and the content of these emails.
And I think another example of that is in the Benitez Morgan recording, she talks with Matt White. Okay. And Matt White tells her the secretary doesn't want Ben on the third floor. Okay. And so they take that piece of information, they digest that. Then Larissa Benitez Morgans tells Matt White, okay, I'm going to tell them that there's construction. Right. So Matt White says there's construction and they don't want that. And so she goes back and says, okay, I'll tell them that there's construction. And then she goes and tells them that, it's just construction. And I don't know why. It could be any reason. I don't know. I'm just an ALJ. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
So that is an example, I think, you would describe that as layering, right?
I describe it as, I mean, remember we talk about pretext. This is setting the conditions for failure
Right.
and
Right.
sabotaging the situation, and then not only setting the traps for it to happen, but then stirring the pot while it's happening, and then laying another story after the fact that makes sure you tie it all up in a pretty bow,
All
so that
while
from start to finish. Yeah.
all while claiming that it's impossible for this to be happening.
Well, and also claiming that you don't even know who these people are. Like,
Well, because that's why it's
saying to the people,
impossible. Yeah.
I never met them before. I don't even know who they sure. I
Mrs.
wouldn't know
Cuther.
who they were. Yeah, yeah. And mispronouncing everybody's name all the time and
Uh-huh.
pretending like you don't, it's just over the
Oh,
top.
oh, we'll see if Matt White and Larissa Morgan are on a first name basis or something else. We'll see that. So, okay. Sorry, that's my. I'll change my okay to. Can we? Are you ready to move forward, Dr. Keith?
Ready.
All right. All right. Additional. Oh, this is an additional order from the judge, who's the only person who gets to make any decisions about the case. Right. Additionally, and this is to Tina at the front desk, I believe. I am requesting that no one be permitted into the hearing room prior to 9 a.m., as that is when Officer Pomeroy, that's Dennis, he's so sweet, remember that? From the Capitol Police is expected to arrive. Thank you, Larissa V. Benitez Morgan.
So she must have got to see his schedule and his work time and his assignments for that day. Uh
No, they
on
talked. Don't
September
I mean don't
27th.
don't you think they
Yes.
talked?
Yeah. I'm just saying. This
Right,
is September 27th, though several days prior to, and again, she's laying the groundwork so that, and remember when I arrived on that day, they forbade me from going in.
right,
You know,
right.
they
Well, because
they
I just said,
they
Come in here. What are they talking about? I never heard of such a thing. And sorry,
even though
this
I had signed in, I had signed in, I had given my license, I wore a little special badge. They customer service desk, aka Tina, would not let me go into the room.
Okay, I guess we know who's running the show, Maria Seltzer. Um,
And who's setting up a circumstance for we talk about
right. There was
de-escalation.
conflict, right? He's shouting. He's shouting at because who are these where are these secret rules coming from? I never heard about this that Debbie Keither couldn't assist me in this case. What are you talking about?
Why would I assume that I was banned from places? I mean, if I'm going to be banned from places, I wish people would give me a list of what those places are so that I walk into this just thinking I'm doing normal stuff.
Right. Because I forgot. This case you're actually not there's no assistance you can be giving here. You're just watching as I remember now.
I was
Yeah.
just an observer, a public observer, and they knew that I wanted to do that
Because you've done it before, right?
prior to, and they were informed. Yes.
Okay. This is I mean, again, Officer Pomeroy from the video. Remember, he knows that I have a YouTube channel, but he doesn't remember where he heard it from. He hears so many things in a day. It's like, hey, this is your first call of the day. He hears
Yeah.
as people do. Seriously though,
Yeah.
shout out to Officer Pomeroy because my new favorite quote. Remember, he's gaslighting me, trying to tell me that his favorite. He loves to watch Sovereign Citizens or Auditors or something like that,
Oh
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so I'm gonna then say, "Oh, I'm an auditor too. I love that," or what I assume that was what the big plan was. And
Yeah.
so instead, I ask him to explain to me why he thinks auditors are interesting, and which he does. But I then also explained to him, I think, about the Amory police chief. And I explained to him that it's my opinion that the police chief hung himself more than I, cross examined him. And the Officer
And he
Pomeroy,
did.
I request this, as people do, they'll do that. And so that's my new catchphrase now, as people do. Some, so we'll see. I better actually get the
People
right
do.
quote before I make it my official catchphrase. But what the heck? All right. Oh, there is our word again.
FYI.
FYI. Yeah, CYA.
FYI series.
So this is from Maria Selsor to Ramona Natera. And for some reason, Ramona Natera needs to be aware of who's allowed to be in this room and who's not. Because FYI. Just like FYI, Brian,
FYI.
FYI, party is sending to the governor. FYI. It's just
FYI, she might have to report to somebody's employer where they are. I've seen this individual right there give an attendance of who's at stuff to the employer, and the employer then terminates the person. So that that could be an FYI, a reason for an FYI. Hey, you better make sure you know where your employee is this day. If they said they're coming here.
Right. Ah, she's got a big parking space, I understand, Ramona Turo. It's freaking huge.
Um, that's what and but sometimes they fight over it. So, it can be contentious.
All right. We got some more emails here. Let's see if I can figure out a virtual cursor versus a real cursor. I have my doubts. All right, moving on.
Well,
Here, what do you have?
I was gonna say, I was talking about the emails where they say, "Are you getting to those? We're gonna get to those." The ones you sent me last night, where they were like, "Ben is wandering around
Oh
and
yeah,
it's Rusty." Oh
we'll
yeah,
get
you're
to
okay.
Rusty. I just want to finish with
Okay.
Benitez Morgan, but yeah, no, that's true. This is a primarily a Rusty focused, who's now apparently a character on our channel now, a Rusty focused uh, video. I hope. So, Benitez Morgan, and here this is a message from, and this is just to go finalize that theme from the last one. This is a message from the respondent, the Wisconsin Department of Corrections, to ALJ Benitez Morgan. And now I think I'm copied on there. Oh, I am, Ben. That's so kind of them. So I'm copied on this. Don't have a chance to respond. None of that's happened yet, but we'll see what the judge does with that. There's a recording of how she officially on the record deals with it, but these emails reveal how she's at and what's really going on here. So this is a request for them, and it's again, I'll spare you the whole BHC is a jerk thing, but the short of it is that I asked them some questions after the hearing, and they found that to be offensive because I was filming them. And if you can see here, she didn't consent to being filmed. And I was apparently
Yeah.
aggressively questioning her. Okay. She didn't
And
consent.
she really needs to ensure that when she's framing these things, that especially when she's cued in to the fact that there's these things are being recorded, that she better be pretty on point with what she's saying, because the recording is going to be very revealing. And as we see what she presents in her interpretation of events is grossly exaggerated when you look, and she has a pattern of this now, right? She's done it more than once. She makes a different narrative over what you actually can see in the unedited raw footage of the exchange. And so this really puts her credibility in a huge issue, because she feels very comfortable, even when she knows something is recorded, to overplay.
Well,
And
right. And I'll say, like, it says, due to his persistent accosting of me and the fact that he continued to follow me. Just for example, there's nothing in any kind of recording that would show anybody continuing to follow her or following her at all.
no, and
Um,
and not only that, but there's a huge distance between what she's referring to in here. um there's at least 50, 60 feet, so
right.
someone
Well,
asking you about an email is not threatening.
there, the big issue here, and I think this is going to be a theme for Rusty too, is the problem isn't the camera; it's who has the camera,
Right.
and it's going to be a problem for Rusty too. Is that it's not the problem that people are taking pictures on the third floor; it's that Ben's taking pictures on the third floor, and he may make a political comment about it.
Yeah.
So let's just see what, and I assume that ALJ Benitez Morgan is going to give the complainant a chance to respond, and then she's going to make a decision based on hearing after she hears all the evidence. Okay, let's see what happens. I mean, right? That's
Right.
what you'd assume a judge to do. Okay. Oh, Mr. White, we got Matt White here. Would you please address the requested item 2 in the below email? Thank you. Oh, this is directly what you would call an ex parte communication. with Matt White, who's a public employee, about the merits of the case. Is directly a motion that they've asked for while the hearing is literally going on, and she's asking another person, doesn't divulge it. I mean, the point is that the judge asked for the police to be there continuously, but denied it on their
And I
request.
would like, yes, and I think if we're talking about the Equal Rights Division, how do I make my request for my own security force? I would like to have my own security force around me when I have to travel into
You
these
you
places.
need to
Be,
state that you feel uncomfortable. Something's making you feel
yeah,
uncomfortable. Right.
right. Because it looks like you can just order them up, or certain people can just order up this line of defense of police force.
Well, she knows it's wrong because this is the ALJ obviously knows it's wrong because she denies this communication on the record. Um,
And she denies knowing Matt White.
she denies knowing Matt White. She denies having any involvement in the police there or even knowing why the police are there. And she then conducts a sham hearing of the subject, um, and says she doesn't have any power or know anything about it. So
Right.
that's
And you're such a liar to continually be saying these things, Ben. We don't talk to each other. I don't talk to Matt White. I don't even know who Matt
oh,
White is.
she got upset when she said that I said this. The problem is, Judge, is that you said you didn't know who called the police, but we have a video of you talking to the police about it. And then she says, I take great umbrage at being called a liar. And then
We all
continues to
do,
have the
but
hearing and continues to have the hearing. Right. No, I get what you're saying, right? It's, some people might change their life given those circumstances. I get it. Let's take a brief pause here for a worthy cause and find a better set of emails here. I think it's time for Rusty. Sound good? Hey everybody, thanks for sticking with us here. We went over some of that previous email because it's in the we got all jumbled. I got all jumbled up. I use the we too often sometimes. Um, so here we have an email from the front office to Laura Benitez Morgan saying another person is here. And this is Alicia Bischoff. She's one of their witnesses. And it says, I don't have her on the list, but she is here. This is the secret list that Seltzer gave to everybody, but Seltzer has no influence on the case. And then we've got a Deborah Kuthi and a Mike Jumbla, and they had state IDs. Now, I just want to note that the state of Wisconsin Department of Corrections, they had a paralegal show up too. This Mike Jumbla, that's my paralegal. And his name is Stephen Ross, the paralegal for the Department of Corrections. Stephen Ross didn't need to get announced. He wasn't
he
on the
did
list,
not.
but he got to
He
go
wasn't
through.
on the list. He
There's
just got to go through.
just different
Um,
rules for different people. Yep.
you want to pause? My battery is dying, and I'm trying to find the plug.
I'd love to do that. Almost nothing would give me greater happiness. All right, so now we got another. We're just clicking through the public records. I think Debbie, what we should do is just give ourselves like a 40-minute deadline here, and then if we need to go more, which we probably will, we'll just do another chunk. Because
Sounds good.
we'll be here. There's so many rabbit holes in each one of
They
these.
they they give us so much to go with. They
So
really do.
so this here is an email from the front office to Jennifer L. Wackerhauser. And Wackerhauser is the head attorney for Amy Petchacek for the Department of Workforce Development. Okay, she's the supervisor of Madden, who you may know, who does the public records and other things like that. She's more of a supervisor than anything else. So I am there in Madison, and I asked Tina. I say, Tina, why don't I reach out? My mother always says this, by the way, invite them for lunch. If you're not friends afterwards, it's your own fault. So Lori Lubinsky, I invited everybody that I knew whose relations who like we had an opportunity to grow together. That Monday, I reached out to everybody. I said, "Hey, I'm in Madison for the week. Let's do lunch." Now, Laura and I at that time where there was tense, and I was just about to lose a really big case to her afterwards. So I maybe she would. I don't want to put any words into her mouth, but that was not a go. But also heard later she was very busy. So I'm not, by the way, not out of fear of being sued, but out of gentlemanly courtesy, not saying anything bad about Lori Lubinsky. She just came up there. But here is Jennifer Wackerhauser, and Matt White were also on that list. Matt White never responded. I sent him an email. He never responded. I was living in his mind apparently rent free, but going to lunch was too much.
No, they don't want to do those kinds of activities. It seems.
I have, there's never been a time where I have reached out to the DWD, and I've done it many, many times, it's more times than you would probably think me insane. And it's because I'm trying to resolve things for the benefit of my clients, which I think is the best thing to do is resolve them. That I mean, it's spit in your eye time. But all right,
Yeah, you should not try to appeal to anything logical or reasonable. Just, I mean, I know we keep trying it, but
dogs,
we
children,
never
and
learn the lesson.
bureaucrats are three class of you don't ask for mercy. Hello.
Yeah.
Ben Hitchcock Cross is in B103 for a hearing, and he has asked me to reach out to you and ask you if you would be able to meet with him today. That's exactly what I did. Let's just see what happens. Is it up or down? Let's find out. I think it's probably down. Oh, shucks. Shucks, dang it. Jennifer Wackerhauser was not in the office on that day. Dang it. I wonder
Too
if she's
bad.
in the office any other days or like if there's anything else. You know what I mean?
Would there ever, maybe if I have to reject somebody's offer, I often say, well, but I do have these upcoming availabilities in the future. See if that one of these might work.
For example, I'm getting the sense this is like I'm permanently washing my hair kind of thing.
I am not in the office today. That's not even an auto reply. That's right out of the keyboard.
All right. I'm sure we could, as many other, all right, just cracks me up.
Worth a chuckle.
Where's the chuckle? We got a few more. Hold on. On
I
pause. All
mean,
right.
my goodness.
We're just stopping over with the smiley face and thank you. And hey, I did ask her, she did do it. Um, she did tell me she was not available. I think there's more of me following up. I, my only regret is I didn't record every single interaction that I had there because, um, man, there's a lot of
Yeah.
connections. All right. All right, here we have Krusty Lang, who is the front office supervisor. It's not clear to me what he does. I mean, he's got an office in another room, and he's clearly responsible for like getting people in there. But as his role is like supervising Tina, and is not trying to belittle him. I'm just not clear what the work is, and
I am
how
not
it's
either.
distinct or different or whatever else. He seemed to stand up for her when she thought she had a problem. That seems like what a supervisor should do. I don't want to take away from that, but I do. I just don't get it. Margaret M. McGrath. Ooh, I wonder what the M stands for. Um, I love alliteration more than possibly I should. Is the director of the Bureau of General Services for the Department of Workforce Development of the state of Wisconsin. Don't ever forget it. She is the two hops up from Rusty. So Rusty, I believe, no, I guess maybe only one. Rusty's a section chief.
That's what it says.
Yeah. So a
Whatever that means.
section chief is the next level up. Now, what's a
Okay.
section? Yeah, I mean, he's the front
What's a
office.
section? What are you
His section is
chiefing
in
for the
charge of
section?
the front office, and well, whatever. But like, here's an easier way to explain it. There are investigators who do probable cause decisions, right? Those investigators are supervised, um, and this is the person who refused to accept our withdraw of the complaint for Teresa Falleron, for example, because it said mean things about Maria Selsor and Ramona Natera. That person is the rank of section chief. And then the person
Okay.
above them is a bureau director. And the person above a bureau director is an administrator. And the person above the administrator is the deputy superintendent, and then the superintendent.
My word.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, if you say so.
But the one point of that is that um being a section chief, just like it carries currency, and because we find this pretty often, like being a deputy superintendent in one sorry, a deputy secretary in one agency gets you a lot of clout in another agency. Okay. And it's almost like you're at the same position and you can go over, you know what I mean? That these ranks sort of transfer over in terms of clout. Because we saw that, um, we had so much wondering sometimes when people from other organizations will have other inordinate amounts of influence with the DWD. Like we're thinking DPI, for example. And it's those,
Yeah.
right, the way that those positions carry over, I think is very similar to what's going on here. And again, my point is that Rusty, as a section chief, has got oomph. He's got a little bit of power that's more than a regular person. Okay.
Yes, and
Yeah.
he seems to be the jack of all trades or go-to person for, anything that somebody you'll just pick up the phone and call Rusty and he's, shows up on the scene.
But and this is
That's what I've witnessed.
I got that right. And Margaret McGrath, I mean, this is her job as far as I can tell. She's in charge of the building. And I mean, that's what I'd probably more to it than that, but she's in charge of the building. So if I was in charge of the building, I'd want to know why the police were in my building. Fair enough. Cat police were in the
Fair
lobby.
question.
Was this just standard request for their presence? Or was there an issue? Well, because I think we'll see how quickly she gets keyed into the Ben Hitchcock cross as a jerk narrative,
Yeah.
as they
Yeah.
have to do. ERD hearing in B103 that prompted their response. They were assigned to be present with the hearing up until today. They will be assigned beginning this afternoon. Okay. So, original request from Benitez Morgan, new request from Matt White in connection with others. It also seems like Benitez Morgan, my guess is that Matt White facilitated the contact with Officer Pomeroy and Benitez Morgan from the beginning. That's a guess. I don't know. But he does seem, I mean, the fact that she's going to him on that Thursday with this request for more police, the fact that Rusty knows about it. I mean, that's also one of our clues here, right? There is everybody, and this is what it felt like, knew what was going on. The police knew, the respondent Department of Corrections knew, the building people knew, the Department of Workforce Development knew, the judge knew, everybody knew what was going on. And when I asked, I would be treated like a criminal.
Correct. And yes, I think that's what we have devised and been able to build from the preloading of this to the event and after. And even the police, I think on a couple of days when I was there and I interacted with the female officer that was there, another male officer that was there, which was not Dennis Pomeroy, but they did not understand why they were babysitting um the area because there was nothing going on, and I felt a little bit bad for them because they were probably bored out of their mind just sitting there watching a hearing going on.
I didn't get,
But
sorry, I didn't get active hostility, like personal hostility from any of the police officers until Andrew Hyatt showed up. But he's got a connection with all those guys. Andrew, as Tina called, I mean, he's known to them.
well,
But
he's got to come in and puff his chest, yeah, for everybody on display there, where
he's
everybody else was just kind of like normal.
right, and that's Mr. Hyatt, the guy who told me that I was trespassing if I went on the third. We'll get into that too, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
him. All right,
And he made the sign. Yeah, he pulled a sign out of his back pocket and said there was a sign. Yeah.
all right. Hold on. If you're ready to go to the next one, anyway.
Yeah, let's go to the next one.
All right, all right. We're just continuing with this thread here. This is Rusty back to Margaret M. McGrath. All calls were prompted and made by the judge from inside the room, to my understanding, which is that's wrong. I think at this point we can say that he's a false narrator. Um, that because we have it on video that in fact it's
Would the judge call him a liar too for saying such a thing? Wow.
right. Well, right. I don't understand why we can't have her cell phone number. I assume it's a public. I mean, I assume we're paying for it.
I wondered that too. Because if you're going to list it in your signature on all of your transactions that you have in written, then it's fair game. I
I,
mean, whether it's your private one or not, I'm quite sure they issue one. You should be listing your cell phone number. And the thing is, because we could then subpoena that information and that cell phone number because we would have the cell phone number, and they revert to using text and phone, these cell phones, many times to avoid this very stuff that we can access through public records. So yeah, that's why they don't want us to see your cell phone number.
but it is. I find it fascinating that Rusty uh, copies the trademark. To my understanding, which my guess is that he watches a little bit of this channel, and or he's a big fan of Rumpole of the Bailey. I don't know where that's where I caught it from. To my understanding.
Well, he practices a lot of stems. I do hear him. I don't know if it's part of their training or he picks it up from listening to other people, but he definitely keeps a cache of sentence stems that he throws back at people, and it gets a little obnoxious because you can really see him doing that purposefully, and it's not a genuine conversation. It's just him trying to appease a person to give some kind of response,
That's
and it's
and
not authentic.
and you can see that. I mean, that's exactly the word that I would use. And I think a perfect example of that is when he's talking to me and he comes out and says, maybe I shouldn't say this, but the fact that the police are here is for you. And when he lets his true feelings out of the bag, because we'll see him script himself later on. So we'll see how that goes. All right, we'll keep going
Yeah.
up. Oh, McGrath says, I wonder why there isn't a button in that room. There is supposed to be. That's when the whole button issue came up.
Duress. Yeah.
Duress. Oh, I know. Oh, this is Rusty back again. They are texting hot and heavy here. This is minute by minute. I think it may be at a different table, but I can't check because the room is full. He means because there's a hearing going on.
We should have did a little bit more planning beforehand and secretly, because now we don't know what to do. And I laugh at this because this is the business that they attend to, and they tell the constituents or citizens, we don't have time to deal with any of your questions. We're busy with other business. This is the other business a lot their
I'm
time
sorry
for.
you that answer isn't good enough for you, but we're
Right.
right. That's a STEM, I think, right?
And your mere question is keeping me from the tasks that I'm supposed to be doing in my role.
Like keeping
Things
people
like
from the
this.
secretary. Yeah, right. Keeping the
This is
secretary
what
from
you do
Democratic
all day.
scrutiny.
Yeah.
Well, that's obviously why this position needs scrutiny or supervision. 4 levels of it. Okay. Remember, this is the bureau director in charge of the general services, and one of her lieutenants, and this is what they're spending the lunch hour on. Okay.
Next
Hey,
time I go in there, I might look under all the tables to see if I can find hey, do I get to take home a prize if I sit at the table that has a duress button,
everybody
like
gets a
at a
car. You
wedding?
get a car. Yeah, exactly. You get a duress button. You get a
You
duress
won.
button. All right. Sorry, but I don't want to belittle this moment. McGrath asked to old Rusty here, is Andrew the police officer? And this is again,
Oh,
this
a
is
first name basis.
right. And this is the guy who's coming in, it's in my face about
Bring in Andrew.
right. And I'm telling you now, you can't go. This is
Yeah,
restricted. You can go here and you can go here.
yeah.
And we can't. There's a lot more to that one here. It's
Yeah,
Andrew
we'll just
Hyatt. Yep, it's Andrew Hyatt. No, he was in Milwaukee earlier this week.
ooh,
Oh, so
Milwaukee.
that's their preferred police officer for dealing with Ben Hitchcock Cross.
Bring in Milwaukee Special Forces.
But apparently he was otherwise occupied. And fair question, how do you know that? I had to get a hold of him for another issue, says Rusty. Now this is, and we see this a lot here. This is, pardon my French, state workers part shitting on state service. But
Right,
that's
and who sits here and contacts the police like this all the time? I mean, it seems like they have a direct line to these police officers when say they don't like something that's happening.
so this is Margaret McGrath. This is like his boss's boss, as far as I understand, maybe just his boss. But she's asking him, I assume jokingly, are you asking the officer, did you try to contact Andrew Hyatt for a reference? Meaning you trying to get out of here too? And
Well, or asking so that I can, what are you referencing?
well, we'll see. So Rusty says to McGrath on Cat Police, I wouldn't bother getting his buddy to help us get access to the new keypads they put in TGT for the whatever. Okay? But then let's see what she says.
Well, and see, they call each other buddies. And I know that that seems like who cares, but they are buddies. I mean, and that's why they feel free to reach out to them whenever they want to. They feel like they are at their beck and call for a purpose that they deem uh appropriate,
Well,
and they're buddies.
and you talk about escalation too, is that it things all the escalation that's going on here is happening because of Rusty's action behind the scenes, and
Yeah,
they're bringing Andrew along. I mean, that's what, when you talk about escalation here, that's what we're talking about. Now, just in case you
yeah,
think it's about a reference, is, he's trying to refer to something, I don't know. No, I think it's a job reference, because she says, McGrath, ha, right, just go straight to retirement.
yeah, as
Because,
he should.
well, sure, but it's, in my opinion, the main thing that I don't like is, I don't like the employees of the state of Wisconsin thinking that their service is a joke. That really makes me angry, and especially someone so high up, at least three levels high up, is just joking about going to retirement, and that this is, we're just waiting out the clock here. I'm
Yeah,
not okay with that. I think that I expect no, I'll say we expect better from our civil servants.
we definitely do, and that's why I do say it's time for him to go, because he's not the right person to do this critical work. And his attitude is nonchalant. His attitude is entitled. He feels like he can call anybody and use the force of the police on people that are coming that have been wronged by the system, and he has no sense of what his role should be, and he's not providing a service. He's impeding the ability to access services,
Oh
and we
yeah,
don't need
I
more
mean, I
people
think
like
that's.
that.
I want to be
We
clear.
don't we don't
That's
need any more people like that.
that's our personal opinion, but it's our democratic criticism of these public employees here, whose function, by the way, is to act as gatekeeper for the Department of Workforce Development. That I think that part of what we're saying, to be clear, is that much of what he is doing is actively working to prevent democratic criticism, to shut the door on people trying to interact with the DWD. And
Yes.
that this is, I think, a good chance. We're almost at the 40-minute mark to plug a great video that we're going to show um, soon. I think we're debating over the title here, but Debbie Keither interacts directly with Rusty. And from my point of view, it really is a model of how to interact with a gaslighting government employee who's is completely bullshitting you and is completely disingenuous with what it is that they have to with what they're how they're pretending. They're trying to create a narrative of you're harassing them simply by their presence, instead of what's really going on, which is that democracy in action, and that we're trying to find out who's actually doing their job. So,
Well, yeah, and you can't even, not even I wasn't there to check on anybody's job. I'll say that too. But what I'll say is, you can't even get a person to acknowledge your existence in these walls. So, like, you can't even say hello to somebody or touch base with somebody because they have now put up such a high wall between the service providers and the citizens that are supposed to be getting services. And mind you, these are people that are supposed to be regular workers. They're often people who have had been marginalized in the past. They have been, you know, systematically um, put into a disadvantage because of certain groups that they're in, and that is why that this division exists. Why it's so hard, because the Equal Rights Division was built to combat that very thing. And they seem to be the experts at perpetuating it. And so that's what's mind blowing about the whole thing.
well, sorry, yeah, we'll never end because we always have one more
No.
thing to say. But I think we were saying the same thing, because I think that acknowledging the people, your customers, to just to use that terminology, is part of their job. And I think that checking up, I mean, I think that that's saying hello to them just the same way that I was saying hello. Matt White didn't, I mean, Matt White could have simply acknowledged my existence and moved on with his life. And instead, the attitude is that we can't have, because again, it's not the camera, it's the brain behind the camera. It's the
And
lens
we're not
behind the camera.
sophisticated. We're not
Right.
sophisticated enough in their opinion. And they've written that. These people aren't sophisticated. And so it's a perfect example of, do you exist to equalize what has been past wrongs by, the equal rights, by creating the Equal Rights Division, or do you double down on these individuals who come to you for a source of redress, and they fail. The Equal Rights Division has failed. They kick these unsophisticated people, in their own words, to the curb.
And this is, we've called this the Bob Peterson effect for years. And just so everybody understands, Bob Peterson, former Milwaukee public school teacher, author of Rethinking Schools, leftist like author all over the country, super well known, is elected and goes into the position of president of the school board while Dr. Keither is being discriminated against. Dr. Keither reports it to them, and basically they're part of pushing her out the door.
And their whole legal team and internal affairs team presented it to them as well, and they ignored it, all while congratulating themselves for a job well done in writing resolutions of equalization. Um, you
And
can't
that's
write this stuff.
right. And so that's why, I mean, there's something about, and this was also an expression of school board members who get elected to do the right thing, and then once they get in there, the attorneys are telling them there's all these pressures here. But I think this is very similar. Pamela McGilvery, former plaintiff's attorney, but for the grace of God go I. And then she gets into this position, and then she's the one who's going around people's back to go tell the new ALJ about with the case, and like Ben's a jerk and all the rest. And
Yeah.
we all know, if that had happened to her as a plaintiff's attorney, how she would feel about, she knows that this is not the right thing to do. I think in the same way that Bob Peterson knew what he was doing was not right. And I think also is what makes this so difficult here, because again, these people are not, they didn't take this position. Sorry. Many of these people are what you would call, left wing people who I would assume took this position to help people. And we're like cataloging time after time after time where they like cross the street to go kick somebody. I'm speaking figuratively here.
Mhm. And that is the they have become I don't know if it's something that evolves from a flight or fight kind of response, but in their quest to survive, they have implemented all of the dirty tactics that they have fought so hard against. And I mean, I'm trying to understand why somebody would do that, why they would think doubling down on terrible behavior just because you feel like it's in the name of good is acceptable. It simply is not. And it will never get us to a place where the Equal Rights Division would fulfill their mission um, in service to people. So that's the criticism. And like you said, we keep revealing day after day. I mean, it often only takes one swipe and we have a pile of evidence of them, implementing this deplorable behavior.
All
I,
right, here's my challenge to everybody who made it through all this, and I thank you on that. Um, when you gaze into the abyss gazes back into you. When you hunt monsters, sometimes you become one. And anybody who knows who I'm paraphrasing, there's an opportunity for 1,000,000 points in the chats below. Um, but that's where we're at. It's sad because these are it falls on people like us instead to push them to do what they claim that they're doing in the first place. And while they sort of walk off, um, on their nice, cushy everythings, and other people have different experiences. So that's where we're at. Thanks for sticking
that's
with
a good
us.
place. Yeah. Okay.
We'll keep you informed. And I'll find the stop button before you know it.